Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I had the best vacation.
I know. So tell us about it. I actually purposely held off on having Cate tell me about her vacation so everyone else could hear.
Yeah. So we went to this is kind of a little butterfly effect, I think, because and this is how great it was because we spent time reflecting on how we got to this particular vacation spot because of how much we loved this trip. So it's an adult only resort, but it's mainly cabins. Yeah. And it's a lot of private space. So like you're in separate cabins. We actually chose not to be in a cabin and chose to be what I think some would consider to be less private, but we chose this view and this location because it was directly on the water. It was like the closest one to the water. So it's like these cabins in the woods, and then there's a lake that they're kind of all surrounding, and most of them have, you can see the lake, but this one is like right over the water. And because we live on a wooded lot anyway, we're kind of like always in the woods. So we were like, we'd rather have water. And the service, the cleanliness, like the facility itself was out of this world. Like, and that was amazing. And it was like, we've been to even more expensive places and not like seen this level of cleanliness. So that was like really cool to just be in an environment where they cared so much about it, and then it was like every decision is so easy. Like, so you get to decide what you want for breakfast, but you get very limited options, and they just deliver everything to your room. You like never have to leave. The dinners are like a set course, 3-course meals. And they're delicious, like gourmet. And it just was so wonderful. And we just spent so much time just being in the moment and just, oh God, we loved it. We loved it. Like it
sounds like you just pampered yourself.
Yes, we pampered ourselves, and we just had the best time. So, they have like a little library, and we talked about travel, and we just like, it was, we'll always have Canoe Bay. That's what we've been saying to each other because it was called Canoe Bay. And we were like leaving yesterday. We were like,
you're like, no,
exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. I hate it whenever I'm on those type of vacations and I'm like, no, I don't want to leave. Hawaii was like that. Oh my gosh. It was like so lovely there.
Right. Yeah. So we, and this was 3 nights, which was glorious to be away from the kids for 3 nights. But, it was also like,
what is that like? I mean, when is the last time, if ever, you have done that?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Like, for a work trip, like I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. No, like a vacation. Just
right. No, we've done 1 or 2 nights. We've not done that long before. It was amazing. We're planning more.
That's awesome. I love that for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we got people coming in. So, hey, Carmen, good morning. So I have my trip booked, and I am heading out to California in June, and I'm actually going to be connecting with Scott Seal as well. So I'm going to be staying with him a couple days at the end with him and his wife. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So
awesome.
now I'm just planning out all the details, and now I'm working with Carmen to. Her daughter is a really, really good golf player.
Oh,
And
okay.
so Jay's like, I got to play this girl.
I love it.
So we're trying to coordinate a time for him to be able to play against her.
Is she the one graduating?
Yes,
Or
from high school. And I so want her just to kick his ass.
Oh, right. Does she like play competitively in high school?
Like, she's good.
Yeah.
And so Jay's like, that would be fun. He's like, I hope she kicks my ass.
Yeah. Right. Of course. That's awesome.
I thought about the Dodgers game as well, but the Dodgers game, we will already be on our way to go see Scott. So that was the only thing. I already looked into that, Carmen. So I'm not sure that will work. Then we have J. Rowe coming in. She says, good morning, badasses. She said, love seeing your smiling faces. Listen when I can. Have a fantastic day. And thank you for ending my week and starting my weekend with the joy you two bring. Thank you so much, Jen. That's awesome. And then Heather's here. She says, good morning, ladies. Good morning. I've been enjoying just chatting with Heather, and she's been going on some interesting trips. And so tell us a little bit about that, Heather, and talk about those things. And it's been fun just also watching her posts and things like that and interacting with her. Then Kim's here. She said, so happy for you and Jenna.
Thank you. Kim's been such a big cheerleader for the trip. And
yeah, so I can tell you that Kim and myself and some other people are getting our work cut out for us, covering for Kate while she's out. It's also a good reminder, reminder that of all of the work that you do.
Thank you.
And so we've been, taking care of some clients and different things like that while she's been out. So it's been fun.
Good. Yeah. A little more vision to vantage point conversations, right?
Yeah. All right. We got the Nomadic Joneses. Hi, guys. It's Heather. Moved over to YouTube from LinkedIn because it keeps freezing. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. She said, yes, joining this morning from Peru. So she's she's been adding things to my bucket list as she's been telling me about it. And so I've been checking out Argentina. She's now in Peru. And so I'm not even sure whether you went to Chile or, anything else, but she's been just on an excursion.
That's so cool.
And she said, we're loving this country. Everything about it is beautiful, from the landscape to the people to the food. Highly recommend. So thank you for that, Heather. And so, well, thank you, everyone that's joining. And we look forward to having this show today because it's about the law of cause and effect. And today, Kate and I are going to be talking about ultimately the butterfly effect. And so the things that we do, the small little things that sometimes we do that we don't even realize the impact that they have later on in life. And so I thought that I might pose a question not only to Kate and I, but also to the audience. So I came up with a couple of questions, and I'm just pulling those up. It's under banners. It's under a different thing. Here we go. Okay, so my first question is, what lessons have I learned from past mistakes regarding cause and effect? And so, Kate, I'll give you a little bit of time to think, but I immediately thought of something. Okay. That whenever I think about past things that have happened that maybe I didn't necessarily think about the effect of them, is that I have learned to trust my intuition. And sometimes when I don't trust my intuition, I say this all the time, and my husband gets so annoyed. I'm like, damn it. I should
You
have
knew this.
I should have trusted my intuition. And so it's everything from like small things to big things, I feel like in my life. And so the lesson that I've learned is the past mistake is just fucking trust my intuition.
Yeah.
So the small one last night was I tried to ask a bunch of questions to my husband and my daughter about the type of donuts that she wanted. And and even after all of that direction, I got to the store and I was like, I don't feel like this is really what she wanted. And so I was like, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. And then we got it. And she was like, this isn't what I wanted. And I'm like, I tried asking you guys. And I said, I should have just gone with my instincts, because I was like, I know that she actually probably wants these. Like I was saying it in my mind.
Right.
So for me, it's just those small things, the things that you learn. And so the cause and effect is she didn't get the donuts that she wanted. You don't get what you want in life if you don't trust your instincts.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that's always like, sometimes you don't necessarily know what it is that you're like, that you don't see the connection until after it, when it doesn't happen. Right. 100%.
Yeah. And so for me, that has been true in even big things as well in life. Like just really trusting how it is that you're feeling, and trusting like, hey, okay, something's not right. And the biggest thing that I found is that your intuition is a whisper. It's not a yell, is one of the things that I had heard. And I was like, oh, that's so true. Like my intuition is like, this little whisper. It's like, hey, I'm not so sure, like here's what I think you should be doing. And so it's like whispering to me, versus like fear. I feel like a lot of times is the yell, like, oh my God, like what's happening? And, you feel chaotic, you feel like chaos inside you. So for me, intuition is about the calm. It's the whisper. Like that is really what I've learned intuition is.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've shared a little bit of how, a part of our love story with Jenna, but one of the biggest times that I listened to my intuition and it worked out incredibly well was when Jen and I had a little bit of back and forth for the first couple of years. I mean, she was actually in another relationship, so we were trying to, and she was, hadn't come out yet to her mom, and like there was lots to kind of negotiate for her, and I got to the point where I just said, I just had this like voice tell me in my head, like, she needs to know that you're gonna wait, so that you're just gonna be there, no matter how long it takes. And I listened, and I was like, okay, and it meant some changes for me. It meant that I, was just like, I had dated a couple of other people on and off too, that I had to just be single and wait, and trust, right? Trust that it was going to work out. And I decided, to do that. And it was the best decision I ever made. One of the best decisions I ever made, because it was exactly what she needed to hear.
Yeah.
And then she just, like, everything stepped into place, and the bravery that she had at that time, to kind of just completely turn her own world upside down with her family, so that was definitely a butterfly effect moment for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for audience, I'm going to ask this question again. So what lessons have I learned from past mistakes regarding cause and effect? And so anything else, Cate? So it sounds like intuition for both of us, but anything else that comes to mind?
Oh my gosh.
Even just examples of small changes that led to significant results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say we've been reflecting on this vacation, and it's a simple thing, but it's a really small thing, but like, we keep being attracted to this particular restaurant for our date nights. And like, on paper, like, we're not the best fit there. It's a pretty conservative group, I would say, that hangs out at this restaurant, but they're very like welcoming of us, but we don't fit in like
looks wise, but
looks wise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But they're not unwelcoming.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just keep being drawn there and keep going, and we really enjoy the people quite a lot, and we feel like we're surrounding ourselves with better energy, and better conversations, and it's through things like that. Like, this is how we learned about Canoe Bay, like through the conversation there, and so it's been something we've reflected on recently, and how grateful we are that we just kind of follow our gut, do what we want, push the envelope a little bit, and we end up better for it, in reflection. So, yeah. So it's like, it's been awesome, in that way. I think for mistakes, I think for me, parenting has been, because parenting has been such a primary focus, because we have so many kids, but because like we just really, really care deeply. Not that a lot of parents don't, but like it's just, and a lot of our kids have special needs, right? So, there's been times where we looked back and we thought, we knew that we should have done, that differently. And that, that's hard. That's been super hard, right? It's hard to like look back, and especially when it involves something, your child, something you care so deeply about, or your children. But we also know that, that's also how we learn. So, we're also grateful for those moments too, to be honest, and we talk about those as well. Like, so, how it works both ways. Sometimes it's you don't know how amazing the butterfly effect is going to be. Yeah. And then other times, it's a huge lesson, and had you been ready to listen to your gut or listen to your intuition, things would have potentially gone differently. But they didn't for some reason as well, right? Like, we needed to learn that lesson in that particular way.
Yeah.
So
Heather also says, yes, intuition is what you hear when you sit quietly and ignore the noise, anxiety. Yeah. And Maureen said kind of opposite here, but anytime I go to make internal changes, the universe meets me there and things start to happen.
Yes.
It's a little bit of both. But maybe the changes don't necessarily always happen as quickly as I would like.
Yes.
And so I'd be curious for people on how that might resonate with you as well. One of the things that I was reflecting on this week, I watched this amazing video. So I also watch a podcast called The Soul, Next Soul Level, that I really love. And I actually sent this to you, and I know you and Jenna were going to take time to watch it. But when I think about one of the things that they were talking about, it's a particular person that channels like the universe or different things. And one of the things that she was talking about was that about decisions, that when we think about, a lot of people are talking about awakening. So the awakening or the changing of Earth and the paradigm shift, going to 5D instead of 3D, which is where we're at. And they were like, how do you know? And, talking also about vibration and the levels that we choose to go on, but ultimately how they were describing it. And I felt like this was very much along the lines of this particular topic of the butterfly effect.
Okay.
And I don't know if you did you watch the movie Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher in it?
No.
It's crazy. So it's literally about a person, they're going through life. They have something that happens to them, and they have the power to go back to that time make a different choice. And in that, you start to see the consequences of now, instead of this person, for example, getting hurt, now it's a different person they loved that got hurt. So then they go and make the change again. And then all of a sudden, it's like a different effect every time. But it isn't necessarily always about like focusing on the, the negative aspect.
Right.
Think about like the choices. Every time we're met with a choice, we are deciding to go down one route or another. So for an example, if we're, I'm even watching Your Honor, and we just finished that as a TV show, and it was about a judge that he had to make a decision for his child who was in a car accident. And you would think a judge would make the right decision, but when he got to the decision, it was the mafia child that child had killed. So he went down the path of like lying and deception and things like that. So it had all of these consequences. But ultimately it was, like what would the consequence have been on the other side of things? So when we think about life, we have these decisions we're making. We have these parallel universes of choices. Depending on the choice that we make, our life might be this, or our life might be this. And so you just never know with the decision that you're making. But ultimately, if you stay in your highest vibration of like, I'm going to do things in love, I'm going to do things in light, that is where, for me, the cause and effect, or the butterfly effect, has really allowed me to stay focused on the choices that I'm making. I'm like, okay, am I doing this because I'm pissed off at the world? Or am I doing, or someone else, or am I doing this in, like, because I'm continuing to rise in my vibration, continuing to love, and allowing that person to deal with whatever the consequences are on their end while still loving them? Or, am I doing things that, that ultimately are for my higher purpose in life? So I know that was a lot, but as I've been watching all of these different things, I'm like seeing cause and effect in like the different things that I'm watching.
Yeah, I love it. I think I really want to see the movie. I kind of remember when it came out, I think, but Maria posted, Kate, what were you doing in the early 2000s?
It was a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on when it came out, I may not even had a TV, Maria. Like when I went to college, I did not have a TV. Actually, I didn't have a TV.
What?
Until I married Jenna.
Oh wow.
I would stream. I would watch like Netflix movies sometimes, or series on DVD. But it was really like if it came to me some other way. So like, I've never been much of a TV person. I do love movies. It's just like, there's so many out there. So you don't necessarily know, but it sounds like one I need to definitely watch.
Yes, go watch that. She also said you're only ever one choice away from a different life in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she said, okay, rock on, because college was when I stopped watching TV. And then Heather says, Kate, that's amazing. We had a TV, but we didn't have cable. We had Netflix back when, they mailed DVDs.
That's how I got through my entire pregnancy. I was really sick with Oscar. This was 2004, 2005. So sick. Wow. And tired, just as like one of those horror, but that's why I only did it once. And I got through it by watching, like all of Sopranos and all of Sex and the City, and they just mailed me the DVDs. Remember that? That was the best. I loved it.
Oh my gosh. So Eric also is here. He said, good badass morning. Great to see you, Eric. So we're talking about the butterfly effect. And so I also wanted to reflect on things within my life, and then I want to have you reflect on them.
Yeah.
So when I started to think about things in my life that, had I made another choice, what would have happened? So, as an example, my first husband that I married, we ended up divorcing. But in the moment, I decided, I could have tried to have found another relationship and, gotten to the same cycle because in my first marriage, which was a little weird for me whenever I really reflect on back on who I was. I was like supporting him and I was supporting his career and things like that. But there was like a pivotal moment that I was like, like I'm not getting stuck in that again. And I'm going to be focusing on me. I'm going to focus on my career. Like I remember a mental shift of like, what are you doing? Like you're not focused on you. And I just remember saying that to myself. And so as I continued forward, I think about the next pivotal, I think there were probably lots of, pivotal moments in there, but the next one really related to my career had to do with me picking up the phone and calling Kevin O'Connor, and basically calling him and saying, hey, are you looking for someone with this type of position? Because had I not done that, I wouldn't have been in this company. I wouldn't have become an owner. Now, who knows? I could have become an owner of something else, or I could have done my own thing. Who knows what it is that I would have done, but I wouldn't be where I am today in my particular position and where it is that I'm able to really focus on so many things that I love. So I think about those types of things in life, and even, relationship wise, with Jay, for example, like I set the boundaries. I was like, this is who I am. If you don't like that, like I'm a messy person, by the way. And I'm like, if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, we need to make this decision early on in our relationship. Like I remember having that conversation with him. Like
I love the way that you guys balance this. If you don't mind sharing it, because I think it's amazing. I think about it all the time.
Oh my gosh. So my desk, I should probably take the camera and like show you guys. I've got some shit over here. I've got a little shit over here, like my desk, like I still know where things are at, even though it may like look chaotic to a lot of other people. But when it comes to certain places, I have agreed with my husband that we will keep the, kitchen clean. We will keep the living room, straightened, things like that. Now, it's not always to the level of what he wants. Like he loves pristine, and like I have my shoes out and he considers that a mess. And I'm just like, okay. But
it's just a pair of shoes.
But I also told him, I said, look, it doesn't bother me that my shoes are out. It doesn't bother me that these things are out. So if it bothers you, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. So if you want it to be somewhere else, then, then put it on the stairs, or put it, we now have a little place that he puts all of our shoes. And this is for Riley too. He takes all of this shit and he puts it in there. But I'm just like, for me, one of the things is being messy is also sometimes equated to creativity. Yeah. And I feel like it allows me a little bit more freedom, and it's almost like taking paint and just being, chaotic with it, and just being like fine with like how it is. You don't have to be in the lines, or, those types of things. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about.
Yeah. And I just love that, like, like you get to have your clothes in your room a certain, like the way you want it. But, you guys keep the kitchen
piled up.
Right. And you just keep the kitchen really clean, because that's like, an important area to him.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And he'll even say, yes, I've given up on, these areas.
Yeah. But I think I love it. I was actually always a fairly clean person, but I really, I balance, like I teeter, in between super messy and super clean, and it really depends on my mood, and it depends on, a lot of things. Like I like to keep, some of my areas really clean because it helps me focus and stay undistracted. But I also am really prone to like leaving evidence of where I've been everywhere in the house. Like Jenna will be like, okay, I can see that she started here. She did these things, and clothes are always messy.
Maria said it's a sign of intelligence, a little bit of messy, but know where stuff is.
Right. And then like the outward will be clean, but the inward is messy. Like if you open up one of my drawers or my cabinets, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. not very organized.
So I want you to answer this question along with the with everyone. So, what seemingly small decisions have you made that led to major changes or consequences later on? So that reflection of the butterfly effect, Kate. What are the things within your life that you think, had I not made this decision, what would my life have been?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the biggest one that comes to mind is, had I not made the decision to wait and commute for Jenna, like I can't imagine how different my life would be,
Yeah.
without her. Um, so that's huge. I think, um, God, almost every single big thing in our life that we've done, as a family and as a couple, we reflect on, like, on that quite often, so, like, super grateful. One of the things is, I was super grateful that Jen and I ended up back in West Bend, like in this city before my mom passed, because we were right there to be supportive to my dad, literally around the corner, and had we been in Milwaukee still, it would have been pretty hard for us, and just very different. And this was just such an added benefit that we didn't even think of at the time, because how do you, so we've reflected on that. Career wise, my career's been really interesting, right? Because I had some, like, pretty senior high level positions early on. And then I decided to do my own thing with my dad at a time when I was kind of a little lost. I was kind of like, career wise, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to be, I just was like, I don't want to be a vice president of sales at a different, consulting company again. Like, I just didn't want that. But that was all I had done thus far, and didn't really know what else would interest me. But starting the company and getting the opportunity to try to sell so many different things, I had, it gave me such a wide range of experience, that has really benefited me over the years. So I think about that often, and it led me to Full Sail,
I was
like,
thinking the same thing. Had you not had, someone else not cold called me, you and I wouldn't have this relationship.
Right. Exactly. So, like, we were growing our business and cold calling for ourselves. And had I not had someone working on that campaign, to do that for us, this would have never happened. So I think about that.
Yeah. I also think about, I never asked you how you guys targeted me. Like, how was I one of your targets? And so that's curious.
We because I have had such a specialty, because I had the technical degree, electrical engineering, we were focusing on technology and software, firms. So and, like, sweet spot of, like, 30 people, like, where you, like, where it begins to be like, to get over that edge, you got to sell more. And that's often where people struggle. So
and that's exactly where we were. And that's exactly what was happening.
Yep.
So,
and we ended up being such a perfect fit. I mean, because, all you needed was, like, the right skill, and combined with, the interest, the passion around it, because it was there, the market was there. It was just a matter of applying the time to it, right?
And Kate and I learned so much from each other during that time period as well, because we used to, like, I was the person doing sales.
Right.
I was, she was the person that was involved in the cold calling. And we would even, like, get together and, like, as we were targeting different types of people, we would pull them up and I would do face reading. I'm like, oh, here's what you need to know about this person. And she was like, what?
Yeah, we had so much that, like, it was really fun, like, those strategy sessions, and leveraging the interesting things. Like I didn't have enough, there was no other clients on my, in my Rolodex or whatever that like talked the way that you and I talked. Like there just wasn't, like you literally would be like, well, as I study his face, I'm thinking that we should talk about this. And it was just like, just mind blowing.
This is a very logical person. Like we've got to go in with some stats. And I'd be like, oh, this lady, I'm like, oh, she wants to be included. Like it was like different things. And then we would research and we found like just odd things that people would put out on the internet about themselves. And so you should ask this person about like her twins, or I don't know what it was, like bring this into the conversation.
Yes. Yeah. We had right. Yeah. And the value that you put into that work, like that you saw it, it was just such a perfect fit because a lot of people don't value it, and you would spend time with me to make, and like that it was truly an investment.
It was. Well, I mean, when you think about it from a cold calling perspective, it's not just about picking up the phone. It's about doing a little bit of research on the person. And I can't stand it. Like if you're going to cold call me, you better know some shit about me.
Right.
So like, connect with me, understand what it is my life is. Don't say, like I have said umpteen million times, our problem at our company isn't getting more sales. It's being able to do the work. Like we're building up the consulting side of the house in order to manage the sales. We have a kick-ass sales team and BD team. We need more consultants that can handle the demand. So every time someone calls me, I'm like, that's not my problem. And then they still try to sell me. I'm like, you're not fucking listening.
Right.
That annoys the crap out of me.
It's so annoying. It's so annoying. I know. I get the same thing. It's so frustrating. And on LinkedIn, like, they'll even like they're smart enough now to ask some questions and to appear to be trying to figure things out, but they still like default on like, well, I've helped a lot of people in your position. Like, well, you don't know my position. You don't like you don't know what I'm like. That's not even the questions that you ask don't even illuminate like anything related to the position that we are in.
Yeah, I do have to tell you, I have two people that I have been in conversation with, and they've been super inquisitive. Now, I can tell they're probably wanting to sell to me. But they're actually investing time. Like they'll even come to BOYBAS and things like that. They'll even like my posts and different things like that. I'm like, hey, you're investing time. And now I'm actually about to meet with one. He's probably, still ultimately probably going to want to try to sell me at some point. But I can tell he wouldn't want to try to sell me if it's not the right fit. So you have now established with me a trust, because you listen. And so it's like, if you want to make quality sales, you have to spend and invest a little bit of time into people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So Jen's coming out. She said, if I had not moved to a boat and met the sailing friends that I met, who helped give me the courage to finally leave an unhealthy marriage, I don't think I would have reconnected the way I did with you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. Jen, coming back into my life, knowing each other, but now, becoming, much more, involved in our world.
Right. Yeah. Huge. I mean, that was huge for J-Ro.
Yep. And she said, and meet Kate and meet all of the friends I now and have now in my tribe. Exactly. And work for Full Sail. Yep, exactly. And so, it's amazing how these things turn, or how, your life changes. And then you're like, oh, wow, this is actually better for me. You start to think about, sometimes you have to go through that turmoil. Like I remember whenever my first marriage, I was just like, holy shit, and it was a lot of reflection of figuring out where it is I really wanted to be in life.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Like
Yeah. I can think of many times that if I'd made a different decision, there is no way I'd have the life I do now. some of those decisions meant I went through hell, yes, but it was worth it to be where I am now. I think that that's a reoccurring, like people that continuously go through hell. It's like, okay, well, maybe you haven't figured out the lesson yet. And that's what
Yeah.
I found out in life. The more I continue to go through the same thing, it's like, okay, what else am I supposed to be learning? What else am I supposed to be learning? And so, but then life becomes so much easier when you have, you're like, oh, okay, here's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting because you come out on the other side, right? So like when you come out on the other side and you've learned some of the lessons and the struggle kind of dissipates,
Yeah.
it's so lovely there, right? Like you're like, oh, okay. It's kind of like now I get to thrive when before I was like just trying to survive, right?
Exactly.
So that's like, there's been so many lessons in my life, a lot of them around family and parenting and, and relationship and how, and emotional regulation, all of that. Right. But like these past few years have been so wonderful and we've been just thriving. And I think it's because we made the decisions, put ourselves through the hell,
Yeah.
learned the lessons needed to learn,
Mhm.
to get there. Right. And that's a beautiful thing when it works out. But I do agree. Like if you find yourself on this like hamster wheel of meeting the same type of situation over and over again, maybe it wears a different hat or a different mask, each time.
Mhm.
That's something to dig in around and figure out because there's a reason there. There's a lesson you haven't learned yet.
Yeah, that's why I think that this particular law really complements the law of patterns that we started out the things with, because if we don't recognize the patterns from the
The
cause and
rhythm,
effect,
right?
yeah,
Yep.
the different things that are happening, like if you're stuck in the same, as you said, hamster wheel, or you're stuck in the same type of like, why do I always choose, these particular type of people, to be in my life? Okay, well, a lot of times in life we have learned particular patterns because we were trying to survive. We were in
Mhm.
fear mode. So think about your life whenever you were younger. Some of us had easier, childhoods than others, and others you were just like trying to survive, or you were stuck in a particular role. So as
Right.
an example, whenever I think about myself, and this is one of the things I did with my depth psychologist, is that I was stuck in a mode of mediator. And so I was mediating a lot of times between my mother and my sister, and each of them arguing with each other. I was, a mediator in a lot of ways for my mother as she was growing up because of the trauma that she dealt with her mother committing suicide. So I fell into a particular role of that. And so how does that then manifest itself later on? The cause and effect is that I now become the fixer. And so I
Right.
had to learn the pattern in my life. Whenever it came to work, I was constantly the fixer. I was the solutionizer. So that's why I feel like, the no BS tribe, I fell into that to learn, oh shit, I'm not supposed to fix someone else's problem. I'm supposed to be there to help support them, help them to understand, and let them deal with the consequences of their choices instead of trying to
Mhm.
for them. So whenever I really started to reflect back on my life and how the pattern started whenever I was younger, and now I'm perpetuating that and continuing that, I was also the problem. Sure, I'm fixing a lot of things,
Right.
but what am I also not doing? I'm also not giving space for other people to solve their own problems. I'm also not asking them inquisitive questions, curious questions to help them figure out and solve their own problems as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think, that's like Heather saying it here. She said, coming out the other side of hell with the lessons, you see so much clearly, appreciate things so much, and come into the person you were always supposed to become so you can continue to evolve. Right. So like your childhood and the role of that fixer, it served you well, you know, like it got you some really great skills. You know, those problem solving skills that you have, the fixing skills, like those are amazing, right? You know, but learning to use them when you need to use them, that was the lesson you needed, right? And you don't know that until you're in the middle of it.
Yeah. And, you know, so where I've tried to balance it is when we're in the moment of a decision needs to be made, you know, as an executive, you have to be decisive. I've never had that problem. That is not a me problem.
Right.
Also, when there is time and space, allow it to, I guess, time for other people to do things. So asking more questions and saying, okay, well, how, you know, what would you suggest? And those types of things, that it allows other people to also learn what it is that I've learned. And so one of my frustrations in my life was also that I could see patterns. I could see that, like, if we don't do this, then this will happen.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you need someone to immediately jump in and say, hey, we need to course correct. And people also need to trust people that have that gift or have that ability to be able to do those things, and also listen to them, because sometimes that's also other people's lessons. But it's also saying, okay, well, if we don't make this shift now, how will that impact us? So it's being able to get people to see sometimes the patterns you see, versus telling them the patterns that you see.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So they're they end up more aligned. It's like more organic in a way.
Exactly.
You know, and it's that old adage, you know, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make him drink. So, you know,
just drink.
Drink. Oh, and isn't like parenting teenagers and young adults, if there is not a lesson there in, like, you know, leading, but not, you know, not controlling, not forcing, not, you know, I mean,
I got to tell you, I told my therapist, I was like, holy shit, you are saving me so much headache. You know, as my child is growing, I'm like, oh my God, this will apply to her too. Because it's also about, like, letting go, letting her make the decisions.
Yeah.
Instead of asking inquisitive questions. And it was funny because she was having this problem with a friend of hers. And she was like, but mom, she was like, the decision she's making. And I'm like,
yeah.
I go, but isn't that her decision to make? And she was just like, I know, but I see where, you know, like, she's blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay. I go, well, what type of questions could you ask her that would help her reflect? So I was like starting to teach her what it is that I've learned. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you know, my daughter's going to be so much further along than I was. You know, she's
right.
50-year-old lessons right now as a 14-year-old.
Yep. Absolutely. It's so interesting when I'm in the business of leading horses to water. Hello. Right here. That's me. Yeah. You know, Jenna's joked around a little bit. She's like, parenting, you know, people talk about parenting teenagers and how hard it is. And they talk about parenting infants and toddlers and how hard it is. She was like, no, what's hard is young adults. Like, that's what she's like, nobody talks about that, but how you literally have to watch them, you know, like
make all the mistakes you made.
You know, yeah. So, but luckily, like, we have this really interesting relationship with our, you know, young adult, and we had a lot of therapy leading up to it. So it's been really cool, and it's been a topic of conversation. You know, like, I will say, well, you know, Oscar, here's how I learned these lessons. But, you know, you're going to do it the way you want to do it. And he's like, absolutely, Mom. I like to learn my lessons. I like to go down in a fiery crash. Bless you.
I'm muted, so you couldn't hear my loud sneeze.
Yeah.
No, I heard exactly what you said, and Riley has said that as well. She actually hates it when previously she had told me, she was like, I do not like it when you try solving my problems, because she wants to make the mistake. She's like, I want to learn on my own. She's like, that's how I learn best. And I'm like, you're right. That's how most people actually learn on their own.
Yeah.
But I love that she recognized that.
Yeah.
And I asked her that as well. I go, well, how do you learn best? And she was like, I learn best by this. And I was like, well, how do you think your friend learns best? And she was like,
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's great modeling for her too. And it's good. And it will be good for her to see what you're doing, right? Like when you are asking those inquisitive questions, and I found that it's great to also just toss it out there. Like, I have experience doing this. If you want to talk about it, we can. But if not, go ahead. And it makes my life so much easier to just put the offer out there and not feel compelled to try to. Let me back up. It's wonderful to be in the business of leading horses to water, but you also don't want to be pulling them, right? You don't want to be like, it's not a tug of war. So I'm very much with Maria. I am in the business of leading horses to water, but they have to want to walk. They gotta want to do it. I'm not picking anybody's feet up and moving them forward. Especially horses, there's 4 feet, that's really hard.
Well, the key word is leading, not, dragging or.
Right. Yep. So like putting the offer out there, like I'd love to talk about the lessons I've learned. Mm-hmm. If you think you would benefit from that, and, I'd be happy to share that, but if not, that's okay too. And I've had, like in work situations, I've had, I do that even in sales. Like, I'd be happy to give you my opinion. I am very much biased, but if you want to learn it, if you want to hear my thoughts, I'd be happy to. And you'd be surprised how many people are like, no, I would like to hear your thoughts. Like, your perspective is an interesting one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But had I led without that volunteer, like without getting that consent or without getting them engaged in it, it could have ended up differently, right? Then it comes out as you're just trying to tell me what to do,
Yep.
Like you're just trying to get me to agree with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Heather also said it's the making them drink that's the most difficult.
Absolutely.
So I want to try to wrap things up today on the top of the hour. So I want to hear from the audience, but I want to have one final question. So
okay.
What can I do to become more mindful of the potential long-term effects of my everyday choices? And so I also had another question, and I think sort of falls into this as well, but things that I think potential long-term effects of everyday choices. One of the things that I've found is one, being consistent and being intentional. And so thinking about those types of things. So am I consistently doing the things that are related to my values? Am I doing intentional things that are doing that? Because one of the things that I think that I consistently have to remind myself is that turn off the TV, turn off the noise, because there will be things that will continuously lead you down a path of lower vibration. And so I'm consistently having to say to myself, especially right now with all the bullshit and all the things that are happening. And that's why I really loved this particular one that I saw, this Next Level Soul podcast, because one of the things that it really helped remind me of is that we're going down the path that we're meant to be, and we can continue to go up in our vibration based on those choices and the things that we choose to do. So for me, it's constantly staying in love. Am I doing things in love? Am I also doing things that are looking at where it is that I want to be? We can't, if we're not focused first on self-love, if we don't love ourselves first and foremost, we have to focus on that. I'm
Yeah.
already there, but for other people, they may not be there. So that is first and foremost. The second is unconditional love, and not just unconditional love for the people we like, but unconditional love for the people that we even don't like. And so I start to, I continue to look at those things, because ultimately in life, everybody is just seeking, really just wants love when you think about it. It's just that some people are stuck in the fear or the hurt or the lower vibrational things. So when I start to show them the higher vibration of things, they can't help but to feel different. So if we continue to show them those types of things, despite the fact that they might continue down the path of lower level, your higher vibration can potentially help them. But I also am finding to be very purposeful in not continuously surrounding myself with lower vibrational people as well. Like I'm making very intentional, consistent actions to find people that are elevating, I feel, where I'm at as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, God, you said so many important things there. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't need to repeat them.
And
Although
can I
sometimes,
add one thing? I
yeah,
actually had this conversation with my husband as well, and I've noticed a shift in him. And I have to call out two things that he's done recently. So he was in a liquor store that he delivers, and there were two guys that came in, and he said they were gay. He said he could tell just because they were in rainbow, and the way they were. He just said there were certain things that it was very obvious they were gay. And he was like, they were having a grand time in the liquor store, like picking out the things they loved and stuff like that. And they left, and the person that was managing the store goes, "Oh, I just wish, there was less of those people in the world." And Jay just turned to the person and said, "Less of what in the world?" And so it was, for me, some of the things that I've talked to him about is just, we don't have to necessarily be confrontational in a negative way. We can simply ask questions. But when we stand back with apathy and say, this is acceptable, and I'm just going to sit there and not say anything,
right.
we then are not also advocating or standing up for other people. So that was one of the things he did. And then I think he's also starting to reflect on a particular friendship that he has. So this particular person keeps showing up drunk at playing golf and continuously being drunk. And he goes, "I didn't drink at all." He was like, he said they bet whenever they do it, he was so shit-faced at the end that he owed Jay $100. And he was like, "Oh, I need to get that to you." And Jay goes, "No, I don't want it." He was like, "I don't want the money." He goes, "What I want is for you not to drink anymore as we're playing golf."
Oh,
And he was like, "You're right." He was like, I won't do that anymore. And so, because one of the things that I talked to Jay about is that the people we surround ourselves, that's who also we become. And I think he took to heart and started to think about some of the people he was surrounding himself with, and like, oh, is this really how I want to be? Is this, the people I want to that I am wanting in my life?
right. Yeah. Good for him. I love both of those stories so much. I think, we kid ourselves sometimes, when when we're, Jay's personality is he just likes people to get along. He doesn't like to
Rock the boat,
rock
anything.
the boat too much, right? But what he, I think, is learning is that it's better to rock the boat a little bit towards love,
Yes.
Because no matter what, it's not just an opinion, like hating someone or some things because of an outside or an external factor, that's hate, and that's not love, so that's not just an opinion or something that you hold dear, that's just outright wrong. That's just wrong,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you tilt that boat in the favor of love, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You're not going to tip too far. Love will always have you. So
Well, it also helps other people self-reflect on the words that they're choosing and the things that they're saying as well. It's, just like the first example, he just simply said, like what? And
right.
they immediately went, oh, no, sorry, and they
Shut it down.
shut it down. But it made that person reflect. And it's like, why did you also think that I thought that was okay?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You just put me in a different bucket because of what, right?
Yeah.
100%. Yep. I love it. There's Maria's comment here. I'm also in the business of feeding the hungry.
Mm.
I love that because it's a next level of can lead them to water, but then when somebody wants it and they want to change or grow and you can help them, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So part of what Jay did was to lead that, liquor store manager to some water, right. And then maybe if he, had that person maybe responded, they could have gotten into a conversation and maybe he would have, fed the hungry. Maybe Jay could have gotten in a position of being like, yeah, it's different. It's different than I am too, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong, or, he could have had that different conversation and would have been ready to have that.
Exactly. I want to pull up one of Jen's comments. And so love trumps hate. And the reason that I'm going to pull this up is that in this particular podcast, what it made me also think about is that within chaos, within things that are happening, it's also a disguise for expansion. So it's a disguise for actually something else coming from it as well. Because every time we have negative things happen, think about like the effect of that. We also then start to reflect upon, like, is this really what we want? And so really a lot of times expansion, growing in disguise. So I want for people that are feeling so helpless right now, related to some of the things that are going on, also think about where it is that we're going. We're expanding, we're growing as people, and think about the positive that will also come from the way you're maybe negatively feeling right now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there's a lot of loving to do right now.
Yep. She also said, I tend to put myself in as a good witch Glinda bubble and throw love out to everyone, including those who no longer serve me, especially those who have a lot of hate in their heart. So interesting that you do say good witch Glinda bubble, because I don't know if you've seen, I can't remember the last, there's one which there's a movie or something. I can't remember what it is, but it was Glinda the Good Witch, and she ended up being sort of a bad person in what it is that I was watching. Like, she didn't realize that she was being the bad person and had to like self-reflect as well. So I think it's an interesting cause and effect. Like, sometimes we also think that, but we also have to be mindful that we're also not doing the other side. It was a really good movie, and it really made me like reflect on like things in life and stuff like that. And they even said, like, if you look at go back and look at the Wicked Witch of the West, because that's ultimately what it was about, was also about the Oz, and was the Wicked Witch actually the bad person? is what this was, showing you. And so it was just interesting to watch like something in how we grew up. We felt a particular way, and now all of a sudden it's being reflected in a different way. They even did this with uh, the lady that ends up kissing the prince that kisses the girl. I can't remember which one this was.
Sleeping Beauty or
Maleficent. So
yeah.
Maleficent, and they showed that actually Maleficent, for example, is the person that actually kissed her for true love. And so it's funny to watch, because sometimes I feel like our reality, like when we watch it in one particular way, we feel one way, and then we watch it in like a different lens. It's a different thing. So sorry, I went down a little bit of a tangent, but it just made me think about like all of those different things. And sometimes we don't know the actual impact or effect we're even having in life, that we think we're good. In actuality, we're also evil in someone else's book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It sounds like, I think it's Wicked, and I really want to watch that movie. I just haven't found a time when others in my family want to watch it.
Yeah. Yep, that's Wicked, most likely. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I actually haven't seen it on Broadway, so I was like, but was it the Broadway version? And it was. That's exactly what it was. Yes. She said 2 sides to every story. And she said, and if you haven't read the book Wicked, it was fantastic and covers all of what you're talking about, Sarah. Okay, so Kate, I want to end with what you're thinking about this topic on the butterfly effect and the things that you're going to be mindful of moving forward.
Yeah, I was reflecting on the question of like, what can I do differently to get even better at being, mindful of the fact that my actions cause, can have this butterfly effect, or do have this butterfly effect every single action. I think for me, I'm doing really well in terms of awareness, and how most of my actions are really usually aligned with love, and with trying to do what's best for all in the situation, even if it's not always apparent that it is the best. But I think where I can improve, what I'm willing to share about is, I'm like, I need to be I need to tune up the awareness. So I think for me, journaling or leveraging some tools to be even more aware of my actions, so that I can reflect and see patterns. Because I'm in a stage in my life where it's go, 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 go a lot of times, do, and it's hard to see those patterns, if you don't set aside time to do that. Right. So that's, I think, an area where I'm going to focus on improving. And kind of one of the lessons I'm going to take out of today's show is, just a reminder, like, especially as we're headed into the summer months. I mean, it is about to get insanely busy. It's busy, I think, for everyone, but especially for like us that live in cold weather environments, we shove so much into summer because we only have that time. It's going to be nuts. So I'm looking forward to making sure that I'm staying on top of the awareness around all of this stuff, so that I can see those patterns and hopefully prevent some negative consequences if I can. But, at the end of the day, as long as I'm learning and I have some awareness around them, I'm happy.
Yeah. I think that that's a really good one. That is one of the things I'm consistently doing as well. That I find that I am continuing to be able to expand, because I am taking the time to self-reflect, meditate, taking some time to journal, all of those different things that allow you some time to just have a little bit more quiet and peace to be able to reflect on what's going on, because we can't really grow as individuals if we're stuck in the motion and stuck in the noise. And taking that quiet time for ourselves and reflecting, and however that is for you. I know for my daughter, it's getting on the trampoline. For other people, it's like, going and taking a walk and just, being within the moment. For me, it's sitting down, it's journaling, and just doing, breathing and things like that. So I think that that's a really good reminder for everyone, Kate.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm excited about, as we continue to move forward with everything with BOYBAS. I'm excited about the things that we have coming up, and so I do want to just thank everyone for joining us today and for the great interaction. That's what I want more of, consistent in my life, is hearing more from other people and the different thoughts. One of the things I'm trying to create is also with a group, we're looking to use maybe even Marco Polo and send like a video to each other and then react, because it's hard to sometimes get together, but you still want to have deeper conversations and meaningful conversations.
Right.
With people. So we're figuring out a way to be able to do that with a select group of people. And who knows, maybe we'll add people into that as well. So that's some of the things that I'm looking forward to continuing doing. And then as far as BOYBAS, I just want to also remind everybody that on next week, we will be off. So happy Memorial Day. But we will be back on the 30th, and we have 2 people joining us. We do have a new person that's going to be joining in that panel. The other person ended up having a conflict. So we have Josh Allen still that's going to be joining us. And then we have Yesenia Garcia, who is going to be joining us. So it should be a great panel. And we'll continue this conversation on the law of cause and effect. And we'll be wrapping it up here on May 30th.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope everyone has a wonderful Memorial weekend and week. We are headed on the road, so came back from a trip, and now we're headed out as a family to a conference for our homeschooling. So on the 30th, I will be on location. I honestly don't even remember where I will be. I will be on my way home at some point, but I mean, we are going all the way across the country.
Yeah.
So it is a long, it's going to be a long experience, but very excited for it. And it's what, as I'm sure Heather knows, it's what kind of drives us sometimes. We are a family that likes to move and do a lot. So we love these road trips.
Awesome. Well, you guys have an amazing time. Everybody have an amazing weekend. And
yeah,
we will
me too.
in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm.